Connective tissue provides a protective structural framework for other tissue types. In this lesson, we're going to go through and talk about connective tissue specifically and the differing forms of connective tissue. There are a number of characteristics of connective tissues. First, they all contain specialized cells. They have a solid extracellular protein fiber, and they also have fluid extracellular ground substance. So those two extracellular components of connective tissue, fibers and ground substance, make up the entire matrix that is connective tissue. Connective tissue is responsible for support and protection, the transportation of materials, storage of energy reserves, and the defense of our body. This image shows the major types of connective tissues. There is the connective tissue proper, which includes the loose and dense fibrous material. The fluid connective tissue includes blood and lymph, and the supporting connective tissues include cartilage and bone. There are four main types of cells that are found in the connective tissue proper. The first are the fibroblasts. They are the cells that make up collagen and other fibers. The macrophages are large phagocytic cells that are found stationary in tissue or as mobile white blood cells. Adipocytes are cells that are specialized in storing energy, specifically in the form of fat. And mast cells are cells that aid in immune response, especially when the release of histamine is needed, like during allergic reactions. Looking at connective tissue fibers, there are three types of fibers we're going to talk about. Collagen fibers is the first one. These are found throughout the body. They provide strength and cushioning. They're found in cartilage, tendons, bones, and ligaments. Reticular fibers are fine fibers, and they occur in networks which support many organs. They are built by reticular cells. And then finally, elastic fibers. These are bundles of proteins that are called elastic, that are found in the extracellular matrix. They are built by fibroblasts. So we can see here some collagen fibers are the larger ones. The elastic fibers are the smaller ones in a network. And then in this image, we can see the reticular fibers, and specifically these are reticular fibers of the liver. Small fibers right in here. Ground substance. Ground substance is a clear, colorless, and viscous material. It fills the space between cells, so this slows pathogenic movement. We can see ground substance in this image right here. These would be thick collagen fibers. This is an image from your book showing the ground substance in the empty space between collagen fibers, and the smaller fibers would be our elastic fibers. Now we're going to look at the difference between loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. With loose connective tissue, there's more ground substance and less fiber. Examples of this would be fat tissue or adipose tissue. Dense connective tissue usually has more fibers, less ground substance. An example of dense connective tissue would be your tendons. So we can see images of each of these here. Loose connective tissue being the top image. You can see more ground substance between the collagen fibers and the elastic fibers. The second picture down, the dense connective tissue, you can see where there's very little ground substance. So again, this image is found inside of your textbook. Has a large number of the different types of connective tissue parts that we would find within the connective tissue proper. Your loose connective tissue can be found beneath the dermis of your skin, the digestive tract, respiratory and urinary tracts, between muscles, around blood vessels, nerves, and around joints. The major jobs of your connective tissue includes cushioning of organs. It provides support. It also permits movement. There are phagocytic cells, meaning that those cells can help to destroy pathogens or disease-causing agents. Your adipose tissue or fat tissue we can see in these images. Adipose tissue is found deep in the skin, especially in the sides or the buttocks region. It also pads around your eyes and your kidneys. Major jobs are to provide cushioning or padding. It helps to insulate our bodies so we don't lose heat. And then finally, it is for storage of energy reserves. These images show your dense connective tissue. Dense connective tissue can be found between skeletal muscles. It can be found between those muscles and the bone. Those are called tendons. Or they can be found between bones and muscles. Those are termed ligaments. They can also be found covering skeletal muscles and the capsules of internal organs. Major functions of our dense connective tissue includes firm attachment for muscles to other objects. It helps to conduct the pull of muscles. It helps to reduce friction between muscles, stabilizes relative positions of bones, and it helps to prevent the overexpansion of organs. Our fluid connective tissues. Our fluid connective tissues include blood and lymph. These are the watery matrix of dissolved proteins. The fluid connective tissue includes blood and lymph, along with a watery matrix of dissolved proteins. It can also carry specific cells that are formed in other portions of the body. The red blood cells we term erythrocytes. White blood cells we term leukocytes. And then also there are platelets found inside of our fluid connective tissue. Here we see an image of erythrocytes and lymphocytes. Supportive connective tissues include cartilage and bone. Cartilage is a gel-like material made up of a lot of ground substance. It is used for shock absorption and protection. Bone is a calcified type of material made from rigid calcium salts and minerals. It is used for weight support. Here we can see the three types of cartilage and where they would be located at throughout the body. Continuing with our supportive connective tissues, we're talking about cartilage and the cartilage matrix. So all of what cartilage is really made up of. It's made up of peptidoglycans, and they are derived from chondroitin sulfates. And also there's a whole lot of ground substance proteins in there. So we can see in this picture a lot of that extracellular material. Those are the ground substance proteins in between the actual cells. Chondrocytes are the cells that make cartilage. And they are surrounded by Chondrocytes are the structures that make cartilage. They are surrounded by a number of empty chambers. Those empty chambers are called lacunae. So we can see each chondrocyte surrounded by empty chambers. The structure of cartilage. Cartilage has no blood vessels. The chondrocytes actually produce an anti-angiogenesis factor. This factor prevents the formation of new blood vessels throughout the cartilage. Right now we're currently trying to identify, are there ways in which we could use this factor to treat cancer? Could we minimize the amount of blood vessels flowing to tumors, therefore completely depriving them of any type of oxygen or other materials that would be needed for growth? And if we can do that, then it would cause the tumor itself to just be destroyed within the body. The perichondrium is the outer fibrous layer. It is used for strength of the cartilage itself. And then there's an cellular layer that is responsible for growth and maintenance. And so we can see these inside of this picture. So we have the perichondrium here. And then we've got that inner layer that has cells for growth and repair. And then a layer of perichondrium here. There are three types of cartilage. The first is hyaline cartilage. It is stiff, it's flexible, It reduces friction between bones. It's found in a number of our joints. It's found at the tip of our ribs, our sternum, and also our trachea. Elastic cartilage is supportive, but it also helps to bend. It's found in the external portions of the ear, in the epiglottis. And then finally we have fibrous cartilage, or fibrocartilage. This type of cartilage limits movement. It can prevent bone-to-bone contact. It's found in the pads of our knees. And it's also found between the pubic bones and the intervertebral discs. So this is very important cartilage for not allowing bones to come in contact with one another, not allowing bones to kind of grind against one another. So we're going to look at images of each of the types of cartilages. So hyaline cartilage, we can see the chondrocytes that are there, along with the extracellular matrix. This type of cartilage is found between the tips of the ribs, the bones of the sternum. It covers bone surfaces. It helps to support the larynx, the trachea, and the bronchi, and it forms part of our septum. Major functions are providing stiff but somewhat flexible support, and it helps to reduce friction between bony surfaces. Elastic cartilage. This is found on the external portion of our ear. It's also found in the epiglottis, the auditory tube, and the cartilage of the larynx. It also helps to provide support, also can tolerate distortion or movement. I can move my ear pretty easily. It doesn't really hurt. I'm not breaking anything or damaging anything. It helps to also return to some type of original shape. So in this image, we can see elastic fibers that are running through this elastic cartilage. And then we can see chondrocytes as well. And finally, we have our fibrous cartilage. In fibrous cartilage, we notice a lot of collagen fibers in the extracellular matrix. And again, we're still going to see those chondrocytes found inside of the cartilage itself. Locations for fibrous cartilage include the pads within the knee joint, between the pubic bones of the pelvis, and in between our vertebral discs. Major functions: it resists compression, prevents bone-to-bone contact, and limits relative movement. Our bone tissue, or osseous tissue. It is strong, it's calcified, so it's made up of calcium salt deposits. It is flexible, though. It has a large number of collagen fibers in it, so it resists shattering. The cells that make up bone are called osteocytes, and they are arranged around central canals. There are small channels that run through the matrix itself, called canaliculi, and they access the blood supply. And finally, we have the periosteum, which covers bone surfaces. It's a fibrous layer, and it's also cellular. So here's a cross-section of bone. We can see the central canal, along with the blood vessels running through it. We've got the osteocytes that are found in there as well, each individual osteocyte. And then outside of the osteocytes, we've got the matrix. The canaliculi is found right here. And then finally, the periosteum is found on the outermost layer of the bone. We've got the cellular layer, and then the fibrous layer. So looking at some comparisons between cartilage and bone, we see that cartilage have chondrocytes, and bone have osteocytes, along with a number of other comparisons here. Make sure you're reading through this chart so you understand the differences between cartilage and bone. So this concludes our section 2 of Unit 2